Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Be Light Stories, where we celebrate the bold, the brave, and the beginners. So, here we're going to share inspiring journeys from everyday runners who are proving that no matter what, no matter where you start, every step forward is a win. So, this guest that I have on today, I met not officially, but I met him on social media. Somehow, some way, he showed up in my feed on Instagram, and I was blown away. First of all, I was blown away because I was like, another black man running. But what was different about him was he was really like, yo, I'm out here. I'm out here and I'm doing the thing. So I started going back on his social media feed, and I read that he classifies himself as a class 1 obese runner, and I
Yeah.
was very intrigued. So, y'all, who we have on the pod today is, they call him Mills Runs Miles, but we know him as Freddie. Freddie, welcome to
Thank
the pod.
you. Thank you for having me on. It's a big honor because I've watched some of the episodes and some of the people that have been on there. I've done some remarkable things, and you were asking me. I was like, oh, okay, all right, cool, yeah, I'll do it too. So that's good. But yeah, I'm really honored to be a part of the
Thank
a
you,
part of it.
thank you. So first things first, this class 1 obese runner, like what is that for people that are watching, and to be able to say, yo, I classify myself as obese, is that offensive? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I mean that makes sense. Well, so the biggest thing is for me when I started this journey, it was actually a class 3 obese runner, and
Mm,
but for me, I didn't know what that was until I started looking. When I started my weight loss journey and I started tracking my weight and seeing where I was, on the BMI scale and stuff like that. It used to be called morbidly obese, is what I was when it was class 3. But obviously, as you start getting further and further down, you start, they changed the term, so it's no longer morbidly obese. Now it's class 3. So when I started the journey, it was class 3. At one point, maybe like a month or so ago, it was class 2, and then I actually got under that weight to now I'm at class 1. So I'm very close to what's being considered overweight, as opposed to just being obese. Which I'm not going to complain about that by any means, because like for my height and age. I would be overweight at 200 pounds, even though at my height, 200 pounds is still pretty good.
how tall
So
are you?
I'm 6 feet tall.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just
Excellent.
it gets, like I said, like, and it's funny, not a lot of people don't follow the BMI because it was made for a specific
Right.
ethnicity and stuff like that. So I get it, but I still, I follow it, and that's
Mhm.
where the terms come from. So yeah, class 1 just means I am at a specific weight right now, as opposed to where I was when I started. Which when I started running, I was roughly 340, maybe 335, and
Wow.
as of right now, I'm around 255.
Wow. So I had no idea that they classified based on BMI. I knew BMI, but the last term that I knew was morbidly obese, and I guess
Yeah,
everything has changed as far as politically correct, what is right, what.
yeah.
But to go from 300 and something pounds to where you are now, do you have a goal weight?
I do have specific goal weights and stuff, and it's really funny because like when I started the journey, I was like, well, my goal weight is to hit here at this amount,
Mm,
and I would always get discouraged because I've tried, different things, different. I tried clean eating, I tried CrossFit, I tried Nutrisystem, I tried so many different things. Um, and the thing that always discouraged me was I was not getting to where I wanted to be because I think my goal was unrealistic. So I go
mm,
5 pounds at a time right now. But overall, what I would love to do is to get down to somewhere between 205, 215.
mhm,
And I would love to go under that as well, especially
mhm.
that'll help me as a runner. But I would be content and I would be okay with maintaining the 205, 215 range. Um, but if I'm being completely honest, I'm going to keep going until I feel like, okay, this
Mm,
is good
good.
enough, and I'm just going to focus more on my athleticism and stuff
Yeah.
like that after that.
I wanna jump into the history of how you started running, but before we go there, I have heard people say because I've never had a weight issue, and that's not a slight toward you or anybody who has weight.
Yeah.
I don't eat, like, I don't like to eat. So, but I've heard some people say, "I'm good." Like, some women runners who are class, I don't know if do they classify women the same? Class 3, 1, 2,
I'm gonna go ahead and keep it a buck with you. I will
or
never
no?
know the answer to that because
Okay.
I'm a man.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
assuming yes, they would, but don't
Right.
take my word
Right,
on it
right, right,
because
right.
some women will be like,
Right,
eh. And I'm like,
right.
hey, I have no idea. But yes, I would say that the
I'm
terms are the
assuming.
same,
Yeah,
that they're unisex, but I don't know
you
anybody
don't know.
else that has used that term outside
Yeah,
of myself. So,
right. I have definitely not. Women don't do stuff like that.
right.
But
And I don't blame them.
I've heard them say, "I'm good." Someone who may be 260 or 300, and they're like, I'm good with where I'm at as far as weight."
Yeah.
And when I hear you speak, you're like, "I wanna be good. I'll know when I'm good when I get to a certain point. It's not really a weight or goal weight, but I know in my body that I feel this is it." So, can you speak on that a little bit more? Because, sometimes, because I know for myself, not weight, but there's sometimes I fake it to make it for the gram or for social media. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no, I'm really good. I'm really happy. I'm good. But really inside, and all of the things that you may have dealt with being a class 3 and running, that's some weight that you're
Yeah.
literally carrying.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I know for me personally, um, you know, I started running I started training February of last year. It was December of 2022. I know there was like, I know we got a format and everything like that. So I figured I might as well just kind
Yeah,
of roll with that.
yeah,
December of 2022 was the second time that I was diagnosed with being pre-diabetic. So that means my A1C levels were high enough to where if I didn't get things fixed, I would become type 2 diabetic. I would have to be on medicine. I have to, check my blood sugar, all this other stuff, things I didn't want to do. I don't like shots. I don't like, pricking myself or anything like that. So I'm not a fan of that. So I didn't want to get there.
yeah.
My mother-in-law is type 1,
Mm,
and she helped me, she helped me test myself for
mm,
it, and I was emotional. Like I start crying because I'm like, this is not what I want. I
mm,
don't want this to become a normal part of my routine. So I went to a doctor, and they confirmed that, yeah, you're type 2. The first time I got the diagnosis was in 2020, and it was the
mhm,
pandemic. So I tried to eat better, but eventually I fell on that. But they told me I need to start drastically making changes. Otherwise, things were going to get really bad. It got so bad at one point that my vision was so blurry, I could barely see my youngest kid. I have two daughters.
oh,
My youngest child at the time, I think, was 3. And I could barely see her. And it freaked me out. There were times I'd be in my car and I was driving, I could barely see outside. Like sometimes my eyesight would fix, and then
mm,
other times it would be like that for a long time.
mm,
So it got to a point to where I had to start making changes. So I started walking. I started eating better, and I started walking. And a friend of mine said, when you can start walking a mile in 15 minutes, then you can start instituting or incorporating running. So
okay,
that's what
wait.
I did.
Who was his friend, like a runner? Like
I funny thing is, no, he wasn't necessarily a runner. He actually was a pro football player.
okay,
He has 2 Super Bowl rings. He was an
okay.
I think offensive lineman. But he's this big dude or
Yeah.
whatever. But so like, it's not like he didn't know stuff. It's just a matter of that's the advice he gave me. And so when he told me that, I was like, okay, well, let me start doing that. So I'm speed walking like crazy and stuff, and
Mm,
I'm just like, wow, okay. And I finally hit it. I'm like, hey, I think I can go ahead and start running. So I did the C25K app, and I quit after the first session. I'm like, man, this is too hard. I'm not doing this, and I stopped. 2 weeks later, I jumped back into it, and then the rest was history. For me, at first, when I was running, to kind of answer the question that you asked me, like probably 7.5 minutes ago, for me, when I was just running, just to like run races and just to see what I could do, it it didn't matter what weight I was. Like I was trying to lose weight and I
mhm,
was still working on that. But it was more like I was getting into the running and it was hard. Like I couldn't run straight through. I did my very first 5K straight through, non-stopping. It took me 46 minutes to complete
Mhm.
it. I didn't run another race straight through, and that was March of last year
Mm.
until September of this year in Duluth. And that was the second time I ran straight through ever. And
Mm.
since then, every race since then, I've been able to run them nonstop because I've realized, hey, I don't have to actually walk it through. It was a mental thing.
Mhm.
And that's when things started changing. So for me, because now I know that I am capable of actually
Mhm.
running it through, and and I've set personal bests like 9 times over the last year or so in the 5K, including 8 this year. I had like a 5 week running streak where every
Wow.
race I got a personal best record, every single one of them. It was amazing. um, that's when it changed for me. So I realized that in order for me to get better, like I can still run
Mhm.
faster at the weight that I'm
Mhm.
at right now.
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily, denying that at all. But when I ran the first 5K of this year in July and it took me 48 minutes, I was 300 pounds.
Mm.
When I ran my last race where I set a sub 30 PR for the
So
first time ever, I was 255 pounds.
mm.
So there
See?
it is right there. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of a 50-pound difference.
Yeah.
And now I went from 48 to 29 minutes. So
Mm.
it's just, I'm not one, like, I understand what needs to happen. You have to rest. You have to run
Mm.
slow. You have to
Mhm.
build up the mileage. You have to push yourself. There's so many different things. You have to understand cadence. There's a lot of things you have to do. For
Mhm.
me, I understand that. And because of that, I know that if I weigh less, I have a
Mhm.
lot more potential to go faster.
Yeah.
But that does not mean you have to be skinny. You don't have to be
Right.
small. You can be whatever weight that
Right.
you want to be and get out there and run because running is for everybody.
Yes.
The slow AF running community, that was founded by Martinez Evans, is what got me going because he's a
Mhm.
plus 300-pound guy running
Mhm.
marathons.
That's
So
right.
for me, the only reason why I'm doing it is because personally, this is a goal of mine. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that everybody has to strive for that goal to
That's
do,
good.
to do the same things. You might be a lot faster than I am and way more than me. It's just
Mhm. Yeah.
bodies are weird. You just
Yeah.
got to put out the grind and get it done.
That's good. I love that. I love that because the people that are watching this, some of them have been running for a year, years. Some of them are afraid to get off the couch and they're like, well, I'm not as ambitious as Freddie is, or I'm not as thin as April is. And honey, I am not thin. Let me just say that. But um there's a place for everybody here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started running during the pandemic. And I was never a athlete at all. Like I
Sure.
was in drama, dramatic.
Mm,
And when the pandemic happened, everything just collapsed. Everything. My marriage
yeah,
was failing. I lost my income. I was in a network marketing company that was crashing. And I literally was like, well, what do I have? Oh, I can move my body. And
yeah,
in the past, moving my body going outside was a way that I coped with trauma. Anything that happened, like I get mad at my husband, I'm gonna go for a walk.
yeah,
And so that day, I was like, let me go for a run. Like you, 60 seconds later, I was like, what the heck is happening?
yeah,
What did I think I was doing? And so for me, I think being forced to like, I had nothing else. For me, it was like, you don't have a job because
yeah,
everything shut down, and I was like, "Okay, I can actually let me try this thing." And I had a friend who was overweight. She had lost 70 pounds. She said, "Hey, I'm doing a half marathon." I was like, what even is that?" I don't know 5Ks. I don't know
yeah,
nothing. But I knew when I started to move my body, I felt better. My mindset felt better.
yeah,
And then for me, it got to a point where community was like, let's do this. Peer pressure. Oh, I don't know.
yeah,
Okay, whatever. And then I find myself in races as well.
yeah,
So but if it had not been for community, I probably would still not be doing races.
yeah. I
So,
hear you there. And I mean, and community is important. Like during the pandemic, I was actually riding my bike because I couldn't do anything else. I was a I am a music teacher, but I was teaching music at that point, and then they shut everything down, and I ended up having to leave that job in November of that year because they were trying to force us back in, and I was
mm,
had a comorbid condition because I was morbidly obese, and I was like, I can't put myself at risk because there was this disease was killing us more
mm,
than anybody else. But then my mother-in-law was diabetic. My wife had some high risk stuff. My father-in-law. So it just was not viable
mm,
for us, for me to stay in that position. I had to walk away, so I had to do something. And I was in South Florida at the time,
okay.
so I got out and I started riding my bike. And I wasn't fast at that either. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of I was getting out, just kind of go. And I
yeah.
remember the first time I did 10 miles, like, wow, this is crazy. Obviously 10 miles is a little bit easier to get done faster, at least for me, than it was for running. but
Yeah.
but it was cool because I realized, okay, I could kind of go out and do that. But community kind of made the difference
Mm,
in everything else. Like for me to be able to be where I am now, it
mhm.
is community. And as much as I would love to be in more of a community here, being in Gwinnett, it's a little bit harder, but just having that greater Atlanta community to do stuff, and then connecting with people on Black Runners Connection on
Yep,
Facebook.
yep,
These are things that definitely drive. I mean, I see so much love and I see so much hype and hope and
yep.
encouragement in that community, and it's amazing because what I don't see is a lot of people putting people down. And I
Nope.
would be another group, the Slow AF group, which is not the same one as
Mhm,
Martinez Evans' group on
mhm.
Facebook. You have a
Yeah.
lot of people who are humble bragging. They'll say, "Oh man, I ran this race so slow, and their race times were 8 minutes." Like, if you don't shut the hell up with the 8 minute slow time, like I'm running 13-minute miles, and I'm like, man, I would kill to do that. Then I started catching on. You guys are just trying to brag. Like, I mean, it
That's
was it
right.
was annoying. I ended up getting kicked out of that group, but that's another
Oh.
story. I rocked the boat. I try not to, but in that one I did.
Mm,
But like community changes
yeah,
stuff, and that's
yeah,
definitely something I want to build, and it's the reason why I actually am building and starting a run club here myself, because what I want to do is encourage other people, especially people of color,
yeah.
because they don't see it
Right,
often. I had no idea we had so many
right.
Black people out there running
Listen.
marathons. Like, I mean, I never imagined that. Exactly. I didn't know that. And one thing that plug that really got me hyped to keep going in this was the race, and I didn't know about
Mhm.
it until I ran this 5K in Atlanta in July that I
Okay.
ran last year, and someone was like, "Hey, you got to run one of these two races, either the mayor's race on the on the
Uh-huh.
strip, or the race." I'm like, "Well, tell me about the race." It's literally an all black race. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, the majority of people there are black.
yeah,
It happens, like, it's amazing, and so I chose that one, and I'm really glad I did because I went there, and so many people from all over the country, all around the world came to this event, and we just had a ball. And I'm like, man, like it's an experience. They say it's a black runner's homecoming, and that's the best way to explain that. So yeah,
yeah.
community is everything.
That one was my first 5K, and it was virtual on
Yeah,
Silver Comet. Me and the girl who had lost 70 pounds, my
yeah,
son, who was not a runner, we went out there. At the time, it was so dope. They
yeah,
had a app where we put our headphones on, and they were like, "All right, count down." And I was so excited because it was my first ever race. I didn't know
yeah.
what a physical race was, but I'm like, "All right, I'm ready. Let's go." And it's 4 of us just down on Silver Comet, and
Nice.
when the next year when they came and were in town, I was like, "This is the best thing ever." Like, I had
Yeah,
never like you, I had never seen Black people. I'm from Chicago. We
yeah.
were running from the cops or from gunshots,
Right.
right? It wasn't running. I never saw any endurance athletes ever
Yeah, yeah,
until until my sister-in-law, she was a marathoner, and I was like, "That's dope," but I didn't know what that world was like until
yeah.
I got into Black Runners Connection and Black Girls Run, and I was like, "Y'all run like and
Right,
you're my age?"
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that those 2 communities, and I applaud you for starting your own community because there's space for everybody.
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
You're in Gwinnett. I'm in Newton County. I used to
yeah.
live in Gwinnett. I used to be an educator. That's one of the other things that I was like, that is so freaking dope. You are an educator. First of all, there's not very many Black male educators in the
Yeah,
system. And I noticed that you on Mondays you go in and you wear your medal. what kind of conversations are these kids having when they see you in this medal?
Well, see, the first thing they do when they see it, and the funny thing is, I've been wearing my medal every single day, every first day that we get back, which is usually that Monday. Every Monday I come back, I wear the medal of the race that I just ran.
Mhm.
And sometimes these kids, and I teach because I'm the music teacher, so I teach all the kids, and I teach every single kid at least once a week.
Mm.
But some of them don't catch on that I'm
Yeah.
wearing a medal or why I'm wearing a medal, and then they'll get to class. Mr. Collins,
What is that?
what's that for? I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, what is that? I'm like, it's from the race I just ran. You run? Yes, I said that. Like the first
Mhm.
day of school, I tell them things about me, and the first thing I said is, I'm a runner. I told them,
How
hey,
old are these kids?
this is elementary. They don't
Okay,
remember
okay, okay,
anything.
okay,
Yeah, no, I
okay,
mean, it makes it look. If I was teaching middle or high school and those kids, I know they would be just playing me. These young kids, they don't remember anything. So, and that's okay. I'm not tripping off that.
okay.
But I told them the same things. I'm a long distance runner. I am training for the Los Angeles Marathon in 2025. So in March of this year, I will be running my first ever marathon. And I said that. And again, it's a sign that my kids definitely need to pay more attention in class. They're like, "Wait, you run?" I'm like, "Yes,
I
kids, we
do.
talked about this already." But I'm not tripping. A lot of them will, and my favorite question they always ask me, "Did you win?" Oh my gosh, no, kids. This medal, this one in particular, doesn't necessarily mean I won. It
Mm,
means I finished. And
mm,
the distinction I have, I've run 28 different races
mm.
since March of last year. I ran 10 last year. I ended up walking the 10th one because I was just so out of it that I just could not run it. But I've done 18 this year, three
Mhm.
virtual and
Wow.
15, road races, including, let's see, I want to say 15 5Ks, two 10Ks, and I ran my first ever half marathon 3 weeks ago, which is still crazy to think that it was only 3 weeks ago. But yeah, roughly 3 weeks ago, I ran my first ever half marathon in San Francisco, the Golden Gate half. And that was by far the hardest race I've ever ran in my life, but it was also the most fulfilling because, hey, I'm a half marathoner now. So, I'll take that one. So, um,
Yes.
but yeah, so like this one right here that is, I'm wearing is the last medal that I got because I did not get one. Because there's some races, you know how it is. There's some
Yeah.
races where they give you a medal, and then others you have to earn it based on
Yeah.
placing. I finished fifth in my age group, so I
Wow.
was just off by two to medal this time. But for this race right here, this is the race where I ran a sub 30
Wow.
5K. So, it does
Yeah.
have a, huge
Special
distinction for me
memory.
because it put a lot of, there was a lot of hard work I put in to get that one. So
Mm.
yeah, the kids will ask me, they'll forget
Wow.
everything I've said before, but they'll be like, "Hey, you want to?" So they, it gets them talking. So I should have a couple more for them to see when I go back next Monday, and they'll probably ask me the same thing. You're a runner? I'm like, they don't start paying
But,
attention. I'm gonna start.
the beautiful thing about it is that every time you come in with these medals, even if they don't remember it, they visually see you winning, and if they look like you, it's a reflection on them like,
Hmm.
"Oh, yo, he can run? I
Yeah.
maybe I can too."
Right.
So I
Right.
applaud you for that because I used to be a teacher. I still call myself an educator. I'm a ASL interpreter, but I've
Absolutely.
been in the field over 20 years. I left teaching at year 16.
Okay.
But yeah, I wear my medal sometimes. I'm at a high school and my kids sucking it up like, "You finna run London? What? Oh my god. Oh my god."
Yeah.
So it makes a huge difference. I want to talk about your mindset having done a half marathon in San Francisco. Anybody know San Fran has these massive inclines?
Oof. Yeah.
Like how do you prep? I want to know about your training that you did for that particular race and then also the mindset when you're going through a 13-mile race.
Yeah. So, the funny story, just to go back just a little bit or whatever.
Yeah.
The reason why I even did that, because I would have been content with running 5Ks for the rest of my life and would have been fine. But on my bucket list, I have this, this list of things, 40 things to do before I turn 40.
Okay.
And I've probably hit maybe 18 of them. And I
Okay.
turned 40 in like 6 days. So I haven't reached that point. So I'm going to extend it again for
Yeah.
another year. I'm going to knock them all out at some point. I'm not even
Yeah.
worried about the
Don't
time
worry about it.
frame anymore.
Yeah.
But on there was to complete a 10K and one was to complete a half marathon. When I
Okay.
started running again this past July, I felt so good that I posted on Facebook, hey guys, if you are any way encouraged by my story or anything like that, and you want to run, but you're afraid to do it, sign up for the race and I will come to wherever you are and I will run it with you. If
Oh,
it's a 5K, I can do that at any time. If it's a 10K, I'll be ready by this time. If it's a half marathon, I'll probably be ready by sometime in 2025. And if it's a marathon, I'll probably be ready by the end of 25, maybe in 2026.
okay, wait.
Someone
Hold
posted,
on, wait a minute, hold on.
yeah.
So, you just putting it out there, knowing the distance or not knowing it? Like, "Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I
I
can
knew.
make."
Yeah, I knew the distance.
Okay.
I knew. So when I ran the first 5K last March, it was in Long Beach, California. I don't know why I keep going to California to do all these milestones and
Mm.
stuff. Well, I do. I'm from there originally. I'm an
Okay,
LA kid,
okay.
and my mom was out there, and it was around her birthday. And
That
as I
makes
was doing a
sense.
CC 5K, I was like, let me see if there's a 5K nearby,
Okay.
and there was. So we found an Airbnb by the race, and I set it up because it was on her birthday,
Oh, wow.
and my goal was to cross the finish line and surprise her so she would know like I came to surprise her
Mhm.
for her 60th birthday. It didn't work out that way, but I still ran the race.
Okay.
It was my first one. The next day, the LA marathon happened, and I started seeing posts on it because I'm following all these running
Mhm.
people, and I start seeing people talk about the LA marathon. I was like, oh man, that would be cool to run one day. And I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, I'm never running a marathon. That's crazy. I knew
Mm.
how many miles
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
It was 26.2 miles. I'm like,
yeah.
I just ran 3.1. There's no way I'm ever gonna
Mm.
run that. And now I'm laughing because that's less than 4 months away
Yeah.
that I am gonna do it, and it's almost 2 years to the day that
Wow.
I'm going to run that actual marathon. So I knew of it, but never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be running it March
Mhm.
16th of next year. I thought
Mhm.
it was literally going to be a 2026 thing. So when my friend said, "Hey, let's run the LA marathon together," I was cussing in my mind. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I was like, "Oh, you mean the one that's happening in March, like
See.
next March?" He was like, "I was thinking 2026, but yeah, let's do March." And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I
Oh,
shouldn't have said anything.
wow.
So I was like, okay, whatever. So I
You
start
had run
training.
a 5K that by that you had run one 5K.
No, by that time I had run 13.
Okay,
So it
okay,
wasn't, yeah, it wasn't my first, like I've
okay,
been like it was my
okay,
third one back.
okay.
Um
Mhm.
but I was still only 3 miles.
Mhm.
That's you're tacking on another 23 miles at that point. So I started Runna's program. I started using Runna to do the marathon training, and I, start going through that. And it seemed doable. Like, I mean, I'm looking at like, man, like I'm looking like one week I would have to run like 8 miles and 10 to
Uh-huh.
15. I'm like, man, you crazy, whatever. But then my wife was in a Gwinnett Moms group, and there was a woman that was trying to sell her bibs to the Golden Gate Half Marathon, and I saw that marathon, saw it before, and I was like, man, that seems really cool to run the Golden Gate Bridge. I've never been to San Francisco before, but there's no way I'd ever do that. And then my wife saw, I was like, hey, this person's trying to sell their bibs. Do you want to do it? I was like, yes. I didn't hesitate. I was like, yes, whatever it takes. Tell them I get paid next week. I'll buy the bib then, and let's go ahead and get it done. So I immediately switched from the LA marathon
Yeah.
training to the half marathon training, and that's what I got
Mhm.
there. Um, it saw me at the beginning of the school year getting up at 4 a.m.,
Yeah.
going over to my favorite park to do, the mileage, and then going over to my least favorite park to do the hills because
Mm.
I hate hills. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out, the best course of action to kind of tackle those hills. It wasn't always easy, but like I just did what I did and I just grinded it out. And after a while, like it became in a twisted way, it became enjoyable because
Mhm.
I realized it's not as difficult as I thought it was. A
Yeah,
lot of fear is just thinking about something, but actually pushing through and doing it and seeing what your body can actually do.
yeah,
I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for
yeah.
what we can endure. But it's like one day, the first time I ran 7.5 miles, and I'm running. And Gwinnett, like I mean, Georgia's beautiful in itself with
Mhm.
all the trees and everything like that. And it's in the fall, and I'm just running around and I'm just looking at creation and nature and stuff. And I'm just like, man, this is amazing. Like I really love this, and it started clicking. Like I actually enjoy this. And
Mm.
so when I got to 7.5, I was like, if I can run 7.5 miles,
Mm.
I can run 13. Like I
Mm.
know I can do it. And I just I knew it was going to happen. When I
Mhm.
ran 10 miles the first time, I knew it was going to happen. That was the farthest distance I ran before the half marathon. I get to San Francisco, I run a 5K the day before, and I set a PR on that one. That was, I think, week 4, I think, on my streak, whatever. Um, but then I had almost immediately pain in my knee afterwards,
Mm.
and so I'm filming. And the funny thing is, I'm recording this video, kind of recapping the 5K, hoping that and I say I mean our running coach wouldn't see the video. And we have this,
Yeah.
yeah. So we have this ongoing thing where um, I kind of sneak that I did something, and then he catches it, and it's like, I mean, he's gonna see it anyway, so it's not like I'm hiding it. But
Right.
sometimes I don't tell him I'm gonna do something, and then I do it, and he sees it, and he's just like, "That wasn't in the plan." I was like, "Yeah, you're right," and that's the reason why I brought him on, because I wanted a coach to help take me to the next level, because I don't want to just run races. I want to actually compete. I want to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
But with the marathon, I don't necessarily care about winning. I just want to complete those. That's different. When I start going more closer to 5Ks and 10Ks, then it
Uh,
goes back to winning.
okay.
So he's like, that's the mindset you got to have. You can't
Uh,
think of, oh, keep running these fast races and stuff. We're building your mileage. So every time I do these 5Ks and stuff, he's like, were you supposed to do that? I was like,
mm,
no.
yeah.
And
Y
it's like I'm being scolded and stuff. So when he learns that I did my, this speed training, not speed training, when I was testing these shoes today and that one on the plane, he's probably going to say something to me about that too.
He
But,
is.
yeah, he is. And that's fine. And I'm grateful for that. Eventually I'm going to listen to him and do everything that
Ah,
he's asked me to do. But,
listen, I am a rule no, okay, let me change that. I follow certain rules.
uh,
So, but for him, like, there was a one time that he was like, "Did I tell you to do it?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know it was a big deal." I mean, it was really minute, but he was like, "I did not tell you to do that." He says, "You don't have to think. I do that for you." And I was like,
mhm.
"Okay."
Yeah.
So for me, when I started with him, it was um I didn't really even know, because my first marathon was Chicago, and it was all the feels. It was peer pressure.
Yeah.
My girls were running it. It's my hometown, my daddy's city. My dad passed away a few years ago. I was like, it's an honor of him. Oh, let's go run a marathon. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was
Yeah.
one of the most incredible feelings that I had. But it was 6 hours and 30 minutes, and so I didn't have any problem with my time. I don't wanna win, like, right now in my life, I'm not interested in winning, but I love what running has done for me. So,
Hmm.
when I asked him to come on, it was after Chicago, and I said, "I wanna run faster." And for new runners out there, faster doesn't mean that's not the only metric that means that you're a great runner.
Right.
Okay. Some people do like to PR, some people do like to get faster. You can stay at a 14-mile pace for the rest of your life and you're good, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's different. So for him, I was like, I want to run faster. He goes, "Okay, so what race are we training for?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I just want to run faster." He goes, "No. Like, what race?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess Peachtree road race." The worst one for me to actually say, "This is when
Right.
I wanna run faster," because it's in the middle of the summer, and we got Cardiac Hill plus the hill after Cardiac Hill. And, we were training and doing the thing, and I did get faster, but I didn't realize he was the one that was like, "You gotta have a target," which is crazy because 'cause I'm a teacher. I should know
Yeah.
SMART goals. But I was like, "I just think, can't you make me faster?" "No, we need a target."
Hmm.
So, um, so after that, I was like, "Okay, all right, here we go."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it clicked when when we had our talk after the half marathon, and because I felt, I guess I didn't mention it, because I did mention on on the post and stuff that I am battled like knee pain, like my knee was just so tight, like, I mean, I had to wear a knee brace, and then that got uncomfortable, so I took it off.
Mhm.
Like, I had a hydration pack on as well, like it weighed me down. Like, I learned a lot of things that I'm not going to do the next time I run a half.
Yep.
It's just a matter of, look, I put some some energy gels, or like some bonk breakers in my
Yeah.
pocket, and then just get water at the hydration station, down it and go. I'm not going to use a hydration pack next time around, because it just adds weight. But I'm also not going to try to PR on a 5K the day
The
before,
day
and now
before.
I'm dealing with knee inflammation, which is what I learned afterwards. It was fluid in my knee, and that's what turned
Mm.
my what should have been a um 2.5 hour half marathon into a 3 hour 10 minute one because
Mhm.
I couldn't run faster at
Yeah,
all. Like the first mile was my fastest mile. I
yeah,
put in probably 12 minutes because I was trying to pace myself, and
yeah,
then it just got worse. At one point I was running 15-minute
yeah,
miles, and I just look, I did the best I could.
yeah,
But when you have the hills of San Francisco, um are another level. They were
yeah.
not as bad as, you see all of the tourist spots, and you see how the hills are
Oh,
like
yeah.
this. It's not
Okay.
like this. It's like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like it's insane. There was nothing like that, but it was still enough to where it was such a, like a
yeah.
incline, like it
Yeah,
was just going
kept
slow, and
going.
it was going for a long time,
Yeah,
that it was brutal,
yeah.
and I felt like I was going up that forever. If any of you end up following me on any of my social stuff, whatever, not a shameless plug at all whatsoever, but if you go to the one where it says come run a half marathon with me, you'll see that it takes a long time for me to
Mhm.
get to the bridge. It takes 4 miles, and it felt like it took even longer because those hills were just insane.
Yeah,
So I enjoyed running the
yeah.
bridge. Like, I mean, it's an amazing view. I'm afraid of heights, so I definitely
Okay.
didn't go anywhere near the rail. I stayed away
Uh-huh.
from that as much as I possibly could. But I enjoyed it. It was so much fun on the first half of it, having to
Mm,
run down the hill, back up the hill to get back around and
mhm,
run it the other way. I was over it at that point. But I
mm.
mean, it was still beautiful. Like San Francisco is an amazing city. The vibe,
Yeah.
the culture, and everything was really cool. I hate that I was only there for like 2 days, but like it was fun. So the hills and everything definitely made it more challenging. But
Mhm.
the fact of the matter is, I was able to go to this race, and like I told you, since September, every single race that I have run, I ran it all the way through without
Yeah,
stopping, including this one. It may not have been my fastest race, but at no point did I stop and walk because I
yeah.
was determined to run. So much so, someone, I have no idea who this person was, but they commented on one of the Golden Gate Half posts where I said something.
Mhm.
They responded to me and said, I saw you and I was behind you, and I tried to stay with you the entire race, and at no point did you stop, and you encouraged me to keep going. So thank you. And I'm just like, you never know who's
Let me
watching.
tell you, one of the biggest takeaways for me in racing is that. So I have this thing where I'm so grateful in that moment where I'm running and I do this clap. So my first half, I realized when I got tired, I would go like this, right?
Mhm.
And then I would just go, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Then I realized that that gave me gas, but also when I engaged with somebody else and I would like, yo, let's go, we
Yeah.
got this. Like it just gassed me up so much. And so as I've been racing, over the years, what I've seen too is people will say, or even I would be like, "This is my pacer. This is my unofficial pacer. This person
Hmm.
right here." Or somebody would say, "Girl," because I like to wear bright colors. "I saw your pink hat," and I was like, "Follow that hat. Follow that. You helped me get through." And that people who don't race, I have some friends who run, but they don't like to race. I'm like, just try it. Just try
Yeah.
it because it's so different. It is just so different. The adrenaline that's happening, the environment, the stories that I like to say. I collect stories from people that are out there. I told this story last week. I became friends with this one lady. She had a brain tumor for 18 years.
Yeah.
18 years.
Wow.
Didn't know she had a brain tumor. She was training with us
Wow.
for Chicago.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big deal to her, like, she didn't need to announce it or anything like that, and but running was something that got her through all of her therapies and all of that, and so at
Yeah.
the very end, when she ran the Chicago Marathon, and I was like, What?" Like, we didn't see her anymore, and then I found out that she was actually dying. But
Hmm.
having that experience with her running and training for Chicago, I will never forget the tenacity, like, the perseverance. Like, how do you I'd be like, "Ooh, I'm tired. I got my kids, I got my husband, I'm overwhelmed." This woman had a mass, and she's training for 26 miles,
Yeah.
and you see other people who are running on one leg or blind or
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Yeah. It's just it's crazy seeing some of these stories and just and just hearing how people got started and stuff like that, and it's the thing that gets me, it
Yeah.
gets me going. That's why, and like, look, I wear this stuff here. I
Mhm.
wear it for one, for people to see stuff. I
Yeah.
also have a QR code on the back. I don't do it for people to follow me so I can build up my base. I
Yeah.
want them to see my story.
Yeah.
And though it may not be one of those, I had cancer or anything like
Yeah.
that. No, but I was a class 3 obese person.
Yes.
I wasn't always big. Like, I was skinny. I was a toothpick in high school.
Wow.
One day I was like, man, I wonder what it would feel like to be 200 pounds. I was 185, and that was the dumbest thing in the world I ever said. I got up there, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to grow any again. I joined the character education assembly program and
Mhm.
did that for a while, and that ended up being a traumatic experience that I have shared on
Mhm.
the other podcasts. There's stuff that I've done, whatever, so I won't get into it there. But during one of the assemblies, I did a back handspring. Again, I was smaller, so I could do them back then.
Mhm.
But I landed it wrong and cracked my knee, and that was it. And like
Oh, wow.
I wasn't mobile anymore. I couldn't run as fast. I definitely couldn't jump. I've never flipped again.
Oh,
Um, but after I got pulled off the road and I started working out with a buddy of mine, he wanted me to bulk up. And so we started doing that, and it was fine because I had the frame and everything, and it looked good. But then he went to college, and I
mm,
stopped working out, and I kept eating, and
mm,
that's where everything started. And then food became my comfort. It
yeah,
became my stress release. When I was depressed, I would
yeah,
eat. When I was happy, I would eat. When I was angry, I would eat. I just used food as everything. That was my addiction. It was my drug. And no matter what I did, I couldn't do anything to turn it around.
mm,
Knowing that I was 260 pounds and I asked my wife to marry me, was kind of hard. When I was
mm,
280, when my first child, when my wife's about to give birth to our first child, it was crazy. And one day I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm at 280. I'll never get up to 300.
mm,
I'm not even tripping. And then one day I weighed myself and I was 315. I
yeah,
had no idea that I crossed the threshold and I got up to 315. I'm like, it's just too much. But I couldn't stop eating. Then one day I got up to 350, and I'm just like, this
mhm,
is like, I was
it's
beyond depressed
yeah,
about like I said, diabetes and stuff like that. But to see that, I was just like, look, I've tried so many things forever, and then finally I was just like, enough is enough. I'll do whatever it takes to
mhm,
start going back the other way, and I've started working actively to to get towards that. And running has been the thing that kind of get me there, because I've always been athletic. That
yeah,
was my thing. I played
yeah,
basketball, I played baseball, I ran track in middle school, I played football.
mhm,
Like, I mean, these are all things I wanted to do. I couldn't do any of them at the weight that I'm at.
mm,
Now I've had, I've had like a second chance to do all these things, and running was the thing that kind of spearheaded all of it. So it's
mhm,
just like, I
so
want people to
beautiful.
know and see that for me,
Yeah,
it changed my life forever. Like, I
yeah,
mean, just being able to take that step, literally take the first step to kind of get
yeah,
out there and do it. And yeah, I quit, but I got back out there and I did it
mhm,
again. And it's just, if there's
yeah,
something I could say to anybody, is like, yes, it's going to be hard, but
yes,
nothing that is worth it will be easy.
yes,
Everything that is worth it will be difficult at some point, because if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. But everybody can't do it because they have to mentally put themselves in that position to do it. When you push through and you start doing that, it's amazing. It's the reason why they
mm,
say there's only 1% of people in the world who have ran a
mhm,
marathon, because it's
mhm,
not for everybody.
yeah,
But it's so amazing to see day by day so many other people say, I'm now a part of the 1%. It's an
mhm.
amazing feeling. And knowing 4 months from now I'm going to be one of those people, it's just, I'm ecstatic about it.
Coming from somebody who was athletic and now is an athlete, an endurance athlete, and from somebody who was never, I got kicked off the volleyball team at 2 weeks. So take it from both of us who, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background, no matter if you are a class 3 obese person, if you are thin, like, it doesn't matter. Start where you start, and if that's just getting out here and walking, and if you even do run walks, that's great too. We just want to encourage you to keep moving.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, I want to ask you what's coming up next, and where can people follow you? Where can people support you?
Okay. So the next race I have is called the Gobble Wobble. It's out here in Gwinnett County. That's on Thanksgiving. It's the only race I've been able to ever convince my wife to run, because she's saying, I don't like running. I'm like, you run every day. Like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, I don't like running long distance. I'm like, you just ran 3 miles today. Like, what are you talking about? So I've been trying to get her to run more, and she's agreed to doing the Gobble Wobble.
Okay.
So we'll start there. We'll do that. I'm trying to get her to join the run club as well, and so it's hard, obviously, because we're in the same family. So one of us has to, bust the kids. So unfortunately, at this point, it's her. But we'll get it, build it up for her a little bit more. Um, there is another race, and usually I strategically find races that either have like it's for a good cause or
Yeah.
something like that. There's one that's in Canton that I right now that I'm trying to run on. I signed up for it. That's Saturday, which is November 30th, and that's the day before my birthday.
Mm,
On my actual birthday, which I'll be turning 40, and so obviously I got to do it big.
birthday.
I'm hosting a 4 mile at my favorite park. So whoever shows up, we're gonna run 4 miles together, and then just enjoy brunch. And then after that, my plan is to take it slower. I do have, I think, two more scheduled races for the year, and then I'm gonna try my best not to schedule anything else until after the marathon in March. So hopefully,
Now
for
you
the
know that is not gonna happen.
yeah, you're absolutely right. But Tahir is probably watching this right now, or will be watching this, so he doesn't need to know anything that we're talking about. With this part right here, if you just like mute that part so he doesn't hear it, we're good. Because yeah, I'm probably gonna do that, but he doesn't need to know it. So,
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it
yeah,
so much. Thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your story. I know that somebody is watching and they are inspired, they're motivated to try something different. I wish you all the best. And I know one day, I don't know what race it is going to be, but I mean, we live in the same state.
right.
We're going to run together. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, really quick though, I didn't get to say this earlier. You meant you asked
Yes.
me to do this earlier. If you are looking to follow me in my story, my socials, both Instagram and Facebook, are Mills Runs Miles. And then if you're wanting more information about the Gwinnett County Run Club that we have, it's called the Metro Mile Mafia. So that's one word, Metro Mile Mafia, on Instagram as well. But if you look for Mills Runs Miles, there will be a link in my bio to the Metro Mile Mafia as well. We'd love to have you. Like I said, we're building it from the ground up, and we're just looking to do some fun things next year to just kind of make it a successful year.